Where to go, what to do asks, okay, I'm having a lot of trouble just getting my hand around the keyboard. I'll put my hatches on 5 through 9 and my pinky on S. Then be able to macro pretty quickly. But as soon as I need to move my pinky off of S to use 1, 2, 3, 4, or for some other reason, I have difficulty getting back to my home position. Any tips? Do people put a little tab or something on their keyboard to help? Well, you have a very unique style in trying to macro, and it's hard to tell that you're doing something wrong, but I think there's a fundamental flaw with how you're using your keyboard because you have a high emphasis on the 4SC, 5SC, 6SC, being able to get through all of those, I guess, rally or I guess macro cycles is the best way to put it. Um, but I would actually really recommend kind of creating two home based setups where you do have your macro setup where that S right here so that you can select your drones is on it and being able to use that across. But also look to try to set that pinky a little bit lower where the control button is in ASD. That way you'll be able to create control groups really quickly on the fly. Now it's just going to take time to practice, but I think that if you really like that style, you'll eventually adapt to that. But on average, most players they'll usually try to keep their pinky on the control button and then keep their fingers really close to this specific area, the QWE, ASD, and ZXD, as well as the 123. And the reason being is that you have a lot of micro tricks that are going to be required of you. For example, people have switched over their patrol button to be Q so that they can have that quick mute shoot a turnaround shot. Or in my case, I'd love it to be E on the opposite end, but each and every person will be a little unique to that. All right, the next question, how are you hitting control, side of hand, pinky, rebind to another location? You can't really rebind the control, so my default position when I play the game is actually to have it so that my uh, ring finger, middle finger, and index finger kind of sit on ASD, and that pinky is going to kind of rely itself on the control. Now, if you're having a hard time trying to hotkey up here, your kind of choices are go ahead and take your hand off of the mouse and then two hand it. It's okay. You don't have to have your mouse on your hand all the time, especially if you're in a point where you don't have to do anything micro intensive. Or if you really do want to stick to that mouse on the hand, the control on the opposite end can be hit with your thumb so that you can go ahead and set themselves up for hotkeys. So the next question he asks is how should I set rallies and manage drones? Like when I have a bunch of hatcheries, should they all rally to the same place? Should hatches by patches that need drones rally to themselves while other rally to the army? Or should all rally to the army and I just pull drones back out of the army lineup and move them back to patches? So this one kind of depends upon what phase of the game that you're in. Now, assuming that you do have all your hatches hotkeyed, in the early part of the game, you actually want your rally to be a little bit closer to your patches, especially as you start up your macroing, start up building up your economy. Kind of somewhat close until you have a full saturation. And then as you get your saturation, which for the three bases, it should be about, what's that, 9 patches in the main, 3 in the gas, 7, 3, 7, 7 in the natural, 3 in the gas, and then 8 out of third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's about average in most games. But once you get kind of one drone per patch, you don't necessarily have to have your rallies all, heading back towards that way. Instead, you can have them in better to defend positions. So, for example, with these 3 hatches, I actually want them to be a little bit around here. So, and you want them to kind of spread themselves out because they'll kind of pull up units in the area. And same with these guys as well too. At your third base, so you kind of want them in the area, but ideally you'll want them kind of slightly spread out so that the units can get a little bit of room and they aren't messing around and moving around too much. And at some certain points, when you start taking battles and you start fighting other bases, you'll want to kind of set all your rallies close to where your battles are happening, so that when you go through your macro cycles, they'll all be pulling up and heading out that way. And finally, one of the last questions you had is, how do you hotkey / micro lurkers against Protoss with Storm? I feel like they all take a ton of Storm damage and die before they even burrow. Do I basically need to play like a Terran and slowly take patties of the map? I'm assuming you're talking about parts, but to kind of simplify it, the ideal situation that you'll have is that you'll have hotkey, 9 or 8 Hydras, and they'd be able to kind of, before you even start up any engagement, you'll kind of walk up, take your shot on a High Templar, and then back up. And the way that you micro lurkers is, you don't. You actually look to put them in spread out positions, mostly defensive, but making it so that if they want to storm, they have to storm them one at a time or get really, really close and creative with those spots. Storm's really there to kind of support the army, and so really what you need to be focusing on is, once you have this position down, you're looking to snipe observers, snipe High Templar, and then any Dragoons that are sticking out a little bit too far. You don't have to worry about the Zealots because that's what their lurkers are there for, but spreading out your lurkers is more than enough, and when you're ready to move them, it's okay if they kind of come clumped in, but if you're looking to kind of use them in their attack pattern, you kind of single them as they were walking through and kind of move them out of the way. And it sets up a pretty nice spread. I hope that helps out, man.